up in October. But today, it's everybody here. So let's try running through this. And as this is everybody that's registered, and we put your presenters at the top, and then all the end users, and then it'll we've got everybody grouped by company, including the partners that are signed up and presented. So we'll see if we can just hand off as we go. So Bob Starr, that's me. Yay. Hey, a wave actually works good, or maybe a salute, so you know who's talking in this together mode. I am currently independent consultant, so I don't have a company, and my role is to be determined. TBD is what I use when I have to fill in a title role these days. But I have been working with NAV BC back to V3 all the way up to current versions, and I am on the market for my next full-time role and doing some independent consulting through other partners and ISVs right now. So today I hope to gain participation in our user group and make this a great experience for everybody. All right, and by example, I'm going to pass off to the next guy on the list, which is Grant. Grant, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Bob. Yeah.
You do a wave? There he is.
Yeah, here I am. Wow, my hand looks huge in this together mode. This is cool, though. Hey, I'm Grant Slemp. I work at NanoString Technologies. I'm the supervisor of manufacturing ERP administration. During this time of quarantine, what have I done to connect with others? A lot of Zoom calls and other software besides Zoom. For example, when we did our fantasy football draft, we just my wife and I sat on the couch and we had an iPad, and it was like us and a bunch of friends just talking for hours, which we definitely didn't do before, but it's been a good way to connect with people both locally and people we hadn't talked to as much in a while who don't live in the Washington State area. So it's no replacement for in-person, but we've been doing a lot of it. Did you attend a UG conference or event the past year? Yeah, I went to Summit last year. My team is able to go this year since we're doing online, which is great. They'll be going with me. And then Bob, I did see that announcement last week. The pricing difference is there's 3 tiers now. And the biggest one, I think, to me is there's a community pass tier that's free. So I don't have in front of me what the differences between the tiers are, but there's a free tier, a $400 tier, and a $750 tier. So for teams like mine, where cost has been kind of prohibitive for bringing multiple people in the past, I think that's a great change so that more people are going to be able to at least do something in Summit this year. Nav version, we're on 2016. I always forget how many licenses, how many seats we have. It's like 30 or 40, something like that. And what do you hope to gain from today's meeting? Same thing as every meeting, just networking, learning some things I didn't know, and saying hi to some people I didn't already know. And Annalisa, looks like you're up next.
Oh, wait, Grant.
Wait, hold on.
You have another member of your team, though.
Didn't
you have it add to your team this last month or so?
You mean my at-home team?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, you put the picture in here. Yeah, that's my daughter. Oh, thank you, Bob. Yeah, so I'm actually on parental leave right now. We had our first. It's my daughter Ava right there, and she just turned 1 month old yesterday. So she was wonderful, and I was telling people before the meeting, she last night only woke up twice, which is the best night of sleep I've had so far. So
yay! There's a yes. Many applause.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, I couldn't resist.
Thanks, Bob. All right, Annalisa.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations again, Grant. She's beautiful. My name is Annalisa Parnell, and I work for Tricorp Ron Flex. I'm one of the leaders, along with Grant and Bob, of this NAVUG group. And my role as a company is business technology manager. So basically anything to do with nav, any kind of questions or problems come to me. If we're going to add any new functionality, that all comes through me as well. What have I done to connect this time? I basically live on Teams. I feel like it started up at the beginning of the day, and it's just on constantly. So so it's really been a fantastic tool to stay connected during this time. I did attend the summit last year. I've attended the summit for several years now, and I always get a lot of value out of going. I love going there. I'm very curious to see how the virtual event is going to work this year. We're on NAV 2013, so quite an old version. There's about 62 of us users. We're hoping to upgrade the middle of next year, maybe. It's kind of the plan. And what I hope to gain from today's meeting, I am really looking forward to all of our presentations today. I think that, yeah, I'm very, very excited to hear from everybody. So that is me. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Stacy.
Thank you. I'm Stacy Laurent, and I work with Classic Accessories as the Accounting and Financial Reporting Manager. As far as connecting with people during quarantine, I think just like everyone else, we're all using a lot of this software more than we have before. And probably the biggest difference for us has been using it with family more. So, you know, kind of connecting with people that we normally would only see maybe, you know, once a year around the holidays. We're now kind of having more frequent Zoom chats or meetings together. So that's been kind of fun. And then also doing some, you know, happy hours with friends and stuff also via this type of platform. So as far as attending a conference, I did attend Summit last year in Orlando, and it was a great experience. I'm thankful that they are doing a virtual event this year, and so I will be attending that as well. We are currently using NAV 2009, and we are right in the middle of an upgrade to Business Central 16. So this is all happening live for us right now. And we have about around 100 employees, and about 55 of those are NAV users. And as far as just what I hope to gain from today's meeting is, you know, it's always just for me about making connections with people in the local area that also use the system. And, you know, there's so much that we can kind of gain and learn from one another. So that's why I'm here today. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I work for Classic Accessories. I'm the senior accountant there. And my role is general ledger, kind of helping Stacy with the financials, bank rec, and also payroll. What have you done in this time of quarantine to connect? Like Stacy said, we've done a lot of connecting via the platforms that we're using today. And then I don't know, Stacy and I actually live close by, so we meet for coffee walks and discuss all sorts of things. So that's been really nice to actually see some face-to-face every once in a while, and of course be, you know, safe about it. Did I attend? So I did not attend the summit with Stacy, but I did attend the meeting last year that we had in Kent, and that was great. That was my first experience, and I was able to kind of just, you know, see faces and meet people and get a better idea about NAV and what it offers. Our version, Stacy already covered that. We're currently in an upgrade. And what do I hope to gain from today's meeting? I'm really looking forward to the presentations and being a great support for my own team, and then also for everybody else. So I'm just really excited to learn something new. And I will pass it on to Noreen.
Hi, everyone. I put out in the chat, they're taking down a tree next door, so I'm going to probably stay muted most of the time. I'm Noreen Fujita-Sacco, working with GearAid. Our parent company is Coghlan's, and I am, I guess, the key user, the primary key user of NAVUG at our company. All of the individual key users report to me when they have issues, and then I send things on to the VAR when I can't resolve them. Let's see. So we are using, I don't know, I feel like I've used almost every networking software out there, every meeting software. Well, we have accounts with GoToMeeting and Teams, and since we're a bit more rural, I'm up in Bellingham, Washington. Things that work with one person don't work for another, so that's been quite interesting to sort out. I went to Summit last year, and I think I've attended virtually one other Seattle user group meeting this year, or since then, since the Summit. We are in NAVUG 2018, we upgraded 2 years ago and are currently implementing Power BI and EDI using Lanham's EDI solution. And we did also already implement Sana. Our parent company is working on that right now. So next year in 2021, we'll start looking forward to the next upgrade. So having said that, I am looking at attending a lot more meetings and finding out more about functionality that we can implement in future, and hearing some of the stories about how it is to upgrade now to the next version. And I will pass it on to, is it Mickey?
Yes, it's Mickey Salas. I'm the Senior Financial Systems and Data Analyst at Delta Dental Washington. What have I done to stay connected? A lot of Zoom meetings and Teams. Our finance group will do Zoom happy hours sometimes, which are kind of fun. I try to attend the user group events, but I haven't been to a conference yet, so still looking to see if I can do the October one this year. We are on version 2017. We have about 12 probably users that are in the system all the time, and another 40 to 50 that are in NAV just because of jet reports. And then hoping to gain just picking up new information and networking. And I will pass it on to Jillian.
Hi, I'm Jillian Bishop. I am the Senior Accounting Manager for Grundens USA. We're a fishing apparel manufacturer and distributor. So during quarantine, I don't know, I have anything new to add there. A lot of calls. My friends and I we do what we call Thursday night mom chat. So after the kids all go to bed, we have a glass of wine on Facebook Messenger. UG conference, I was able to go to Summit this past year. I had plans to go to Focus. Optimistically thought COVID was just gonna fizzle out in a month, but that didn't work out. And we are currently using NAV 2017. We had planned to upgrade to 2018, but that got postponed. We had some budget rearranging to do with COVID. And so we have about 10 users in NAV right now. About half our staff uses NAV. And for today's meeting, I was excited to see some financial reporting on the menu. So I'm excited to learn something that I didn't know before. See how everyone else is using NAV. So yeah, I will pass it over to Amy.
Hey everybody, this is Amy Baker-Ramstead. I'm the NAV person. I mean, obviously everybody here is, but I'm the only NAV person in my company. We are a manufacturing company in Yakima. So this is easier because I don't have to cross the mountain, although I don't get to cross the mountain to come to a meeting. Kind of sad about that. Let's see, what have I done to connect? I'm on Skype every day with old coworkers. There's always somebody that can answer a question for me about something. Sometimes it's moral support. So I'm still a big Skype user. We do that a lot. I started walking the neighborhood when I started working from home. So I wave at neighbors, we catch up. They're all retired, I'm not, so it's a little bit more difficult. And Teams, of course, that's kind of what everybody's doing these days. I did go to Summit last year, which was eye-opening and a whirlwind of information and trying to get to the right meetings at the right time and seeing what I missed and seeing what I didn't, and then connecting with other people. We are on NAV 2016. We have probably 30 people who are in it a lot. And I don't have any plans to upgrade. We've only been on NAV for 3.5 years. And I'm afraid if we go to BC now, we'll be carrying our junk forward. Unfortunately, that was on recording, but I'm sure you all get it. We need to figure out what we're doing now before we move to the next version. What do I hope to gain from today's meeting? I don't know yet. I'm coming in with open ears. I do have one question for the end, but that's about it. And I am going to be fast on the mute button. I have a 65-pound hound dog and a guy looking at my roof. So if you see my lips moving and I haven't unmuted myself, you can tell me. And I will pass it on to Regina.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Regina. I work for Sequoia as the purchasing/production manager. So the production order topic is definitely what I'm most interested in and how it ties with everything I'm doing. So we do a lot of team meetings. We have a weekly team meeting and just sort of catch up with everybody that way. And that's pretty much about the only connections that I've been doing personally. As far as conferences, we just started using NAV at the first of the year, and then COVID hit and shut us down. So we weren't fully implemented when we went live, and so we've really been sort of struggling to get us up and running. I'm totally new to NAV, which is actually we're running the Dynamics 365 Business Central on the cloud is what we're running. So we're still setting up. We're still getting everything organized. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. There are two primary users, myself and our accounting manager. Those are the ones that are constantly on it. Eventually, the dozen people that we have working for our company will be on the system, but we're not ready to roll it out yet. I mean, we fell definitely behind in everything. So for me, the hope to gain from this is just sort of an introduction of what's out there and what advantages to the system, because I'm not feeling them right now. The resources I'll have available to help me actually get going. So with that, I will pass it off to Dan.
Is there a Dan with Tech Labs that made it?
All right. Yeah, I'm
is.
Dan Neese. I'm with Tech Laboratories, and we're down in Albany, Oregon. So I'm kind of crashing the Seattle group here because there's not much activity down in Oregon. So I'm crashing your guys' group. I'm a systems engineer, and let's see, what have I done to connect with people? Like everyone, or probably a lot of Teams meetings. We use Teams internally, and of course, we have other video conference solutions with other people. So, So as far as attending a conference, we did not make it last year. I did go to Phoenix before that. So I see a few familiar names here in the group. A couple of you I've met, which is good. Where are we? We're on 2017. We're just starting our upgrade to BC 14. And we're just getting started in that process. And what do I hope to gain? Just I've been kind of feeling a little isolated, not having gone to a conference lately. And so I'm hoping to kind of get reconnected. And so I guess with that, I'll pass it on to Andrew.
Hey, before you glaze over that term that you threw out there of BC 14, can you do you have a short answer for why you call it BC14 that you could share? Because everybody goes by years, and then you throw the 14 in there, and it's like, huh?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we're calling it BC14 primarily because that's what Liberty Grove, our VAR, calls it. We're going to that version specifically, even though it's not the latest and greatest, because it's the last one that does both the old style customization code and was the new code. So we still have some old things that we need to have. So this is going to be our kind of our bridge, right? So we're going to be on Business Central. We're going to take that opportunity to get rid of the old customizations, get those converted over in the next couple of years, and then finally move forward to the kind of the more fully modern version of BC.
Yep. Just it's the bridge version that supports all the RTC and old stuff and Seaside code, and all your old objects still work there before going forward. I thought that was significant that you dropped that version name that you're going towards. That's all.
Yep.
Cool. All right. We're ready to jump to dynamic communities. Who is here?
Sure, I can go ahead and I can introduce myself since it looks like I'm first on the list. My name is Andrew Farrig. I've been with Dynamic Communities for about 1.5 years now. I'm the CFO. Just want to join this group. Actually, this is my first kind of user group meeting, but want to join this group to understand, the flow of how things go in here, understand how we as a business can help support the UGs and the UG leaders as you guys continue to problem solve and share best ideas going forward and ways that we can support that. So really here just for information purposes to see how as a company we can support this better going forward. During COVID, I think one of the things that has helped is my kids are finally back in school right now. So, working from home, I can focus a little better. But during it, I'm not sure how we got through it, to be honest with you. I don't know how we're continuing to get through it, but hoping that we get to some sense of normalcy in the near future. So I'll kick it to Rachel or Paul next.
I'll jump in. I'm Rachel Fisher, and I apologize that I was off video for a while there. I'm in California, so I am lunching right now, and I didn't figure that you guys want to watch me eat. But I'm happy to join. This is my second user group meeting, and for some reason, I keep ending up in BC Nav user group meetings, and they're fun. So happy to be here. I'm the new head of Academy and programs. So all of the learning content that we provide is my responsibility, my team's responsibility. Same thing as everyone else in terms of what to do to get through quarantine. It mostly involves reaching out to people more actively than I did before. And there has been some silver linings there, like reconnecting with my entire college friend group that, we haven't all been together in years. And we were together virtually, but it's been nice to reconnect with people. What do I hope to gain from today's meeting? Just like Andrew, a better understanding of how the user groups meet and your purpose in these groups and some of the educational experiences that you share with each other here, and how we can continue to engage with the community to bring the type of educational experiences that really matter to you and that help you to accelerate the decisions you're making around your technology. And with that, I'll pass it to Paul.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Paul Alley here. I'm with Dynamic Communities also. My role is Chief Revenue Officer, so I have the pleasure of working with a fantastic team, many who you may have interacted with before on the community side, whether it be Evan or Leah or Bridget, You know, and really the role of my organization is to focus on new ways that we can empower the community and the UGs to engage, you know, broader, deeper, wider, pulling in partners, helping to grow the various user groups around the country so that everybody can gain a little more knowledge from one another out of it. Little, you know, quick snapshot about me. Prior to coming to Dynamic Communities about a year ago, I spent a good bit of time in the channel with a partner called TriBridge, who became DXC Technology. So I spent a lot of time working with organizations specifically in the manufacturing and distribution space that were looking to go through that digital transformation and get off of whether it was AS400 systems or just other platforms that had seen better days, helping those organizations understand how new technology like BC can help them achieve some long-term goals. So I was very excited to have the opportunity to come to Dynamic Communities and work in a broader scale with the partner community who I became to know very well, but also have the opportunity to meet folks within the UGs, hear firsthand stories of how Dynamics technology is paving the way for new opportunities within organizations like the ones represented here today. So what have I done in the time of quarantine to connect? Like everybody's mentioned, every flavor of virtual platform I've got to experience. I think they're all officially downloaded now, so I don't have to see the please wait on a new one. But you know, being an extrovert, I am longing for the days when we can get back together, you know, and kind of collaborate face to face once again. As far as it relates to UG conferences, my first summit was in Las Vegas. I think that was in about 2010 or 11. So I've been to quite a few and had an opportunity to really see the community grow and flourish and learn from one another. Andrew didn't mention it, but we just rolled out BC here. I don't know what version, but whatever the latest is. And again, as both Rachel and Andrew mentioned, really looking to understand how we can serve you more as an organization, help, you know, remove technology barriers, make broader introductions to the partner community or like organizations, help with you know, mentor matching, migration challenges, anything that we may be able to help facilitate conversation that helps, you know, further and grow your organization. That's what, you know, I'm hoping to learn and take away. And by all means, you know, feel free to always reach out to me with any questions or guidance, or if you have ideas of ways that we can better serve the community or the UGs. By all means, we'd love to hear that feedback and determine how we can work some of those ideas into our roadmap. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to our newest team member and our CEO, John Seifert.
Thanks, Paul. And Bob, thank you very much for inviting me in to be a part of the session here today. I appreciate it. I had there was a post that went up on LinkedIn about, hey, you know, this is a new guy coming over to Dynamic Communities and all that sort of thing. And Bob was quick to reach out and say, hey, you know, I lead I play a leadership role across the user group here in Washington State. We're going to be doing a session with the UG here in the next week or so, and would love to have you come in. So, Bob, thank you very much for thinking of that and inviting me in. As Paul said, my name is John Seifert. I'm about a 25-year enterprise IT guy, working in a multitude of different roles over that time frame in running large media shops and big event businesses and all those sorts of things through the years. It's interesting because I got an opportunity to come in and be a part of Dynamic Communities based on private equity firms that knew each other and those sorts of things. And as I dove in to the organization, studying it a little bit, looking at the user groups and that type of thing, I sort of fell in love with this kind of method or model that had been created around dynamic communities of helping people sort of accelerate their decision-making process based on smart people getting together and sharing knowledge. And the more I saw that in all of these different kinds of pockets of the different user groups, and then hearing the stories of the summit events and the regional events and that kind of thing, it just really made me want to be a part of this organization. And even though it's like a funky time to be starting at a new company, I mean, golly, my colleagues and I haven't even met each other face to face yet, right? Everything's been over these types of calls and that kind of thing. But there's a real kind of special feel that at least I have that really drew me into being a part of this organization, and I'm thrilled to be here to help kind of figure out, boy, during these COVID times, how can we create that virtual version of the summit that could create great stuff for everybody and create that same level of connection and acceleration of decision making by connecting smart people together and that sort of stuff. There is a sort of fun thing that we've been doing around the Seaford House during quarantine time. So we do all those Zoom meetings and the Teams meetings and the blah 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 kind of meetings over video. But we started writing letters to other family members, like literally handwritten cursive style letters out to family members, just to kind of go a little old school, so you had something to hold on to, and that kind of thing. It's been kind of cool, right? Because when you sit down with a pad of paper in your hand and you actually write out a few thoughts, boy, it's a little bit different than typing somebody an email or shooting them over a text or that kind of thing. You actually end up going a little bit deeper, which is cool. So that's been one of the things that's kind of gotten me through all this stuff with my family.
I had a vendor send out an envelope with postcards with stamps on them to us to say, just drop a postcard out to somebody that you care about. It's cool, a really great idea.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool. I mean, it breaks stuff down. We're all so digital every single day, and everything we're doing, and our jobs are so digital, and pardon me, our meetings are so digital right now, that kind of thing. Boy, taking a step back and writing a little something down, gosh, it just kind of opens your mind up a little bit, can open your heart up a little bit, that kind of thing, especially when it's family. For me, getting out of today's session, golly, I've already gotten some out of it, right? By hearing everybody talk through their positions, what some of the stuff is they're working on, and that type of thing. Look forward to learning more. And again, I thank you, Bob, for pulling me in here to be a part of this, so I can kind of dive right in and get to know the user group. So that being said, thanks everybody from the new guy, and I'll hand it over to Chad.
All right, great to meet everybody. Thank you for inviting me today here, Bob, and I'm excited to present a little bit and hear what everybody has to say around their challenges and opportunities that they see with NAV and BC going forward. So I am a group program manager at Microsoft. That is a very long-winded way of saying that I work in the development organization. And I have the opportunity to lead program managers and engineers as they build out a number of our SMB solutions, including Business Central. I'm actually, not today, working out of Fargo, North Dakota, but that's the development center that I call home base is Fargo, North Dakota. I've gone into Minnesota, into Lake Country for this quarantine period. So how have I done that with quarantine is what you've all mentioned before, a lot of Teams meetings. Because we're in the lakes, because our summers are this long in Minnesota, we've also practiced that social distancing around a campfire with lawn chairs with some of our family members as before the kids head off to college again, which they just did last week. What have I attended UG conferences? Yes, I was at the last UG conference as well. And I was actually at the very first UG conference in that hotel out in Seattle several years ago now, where we had vendors in the hall. I think we had 3 or 4 vendors lined up in the hall for the expo. So watching the growth has been pretty phenomenal. When you take a great idea and you really continue to utilize that, and as someone said on the phone here, having experts talk to experts, users talk to users, it's really a fun atmosphere to be part of. So I appreciate the time you give us and the opportunity to be part of that. I guess which version am I on? We are putting the finishing touches on version 17. or 17X. So I will explain that a little bit more when I present later on today, what those 14X, 17X, what all that actually stands for. And then from today's meeting, again, hearing some of the things that you've been doing, certainly the interest in my part of what your roadmap is to cloud, what your roadmap is in terms of how you look at that upgrade to the different versions of BC, and primarily what you may be looking at when you move into the cloud environment for BC. So, I'm just checking, I don't think Tim, I don't see him on the call log here. I'm not sure that I saw Danny, so I believe Mary, you're up next.
That's a surprise for Mary, so we'll give her a minute to unmute. She didn't know she was next. There she is. Hi.
No, sorry about that. I was double muted apparently. So I started my intro. I'm like, oh, wait, what do you mean? You can't hear me? Sorry about that. Thanks, Chad and Bob. My name is Mary Miller. I'm with QuickTag by nChoice, and we're a document management and AP automation solution provider that is a sponsor, of course, of BC NAVUG. So we're excited to be here. And, you know, our company does document management across all of the dynamic stack. So we actually sponsor a couple of different community groups, but there's so much happening in the BC space right now that we're just kind of soaking it all in. And I love hearing from everybody on this call about what's new in your world. My role is actually in charge of marketing and channel. So this kind of fits right in with how we help our customers, and what we learned from you, we kind of feed right back in to that environment, which is exciting. And what we've done with quarantine is a lot of what you guys have all talked about, but we're in Arizona. So the good news is I didn't have to get on a plane to come see you guys, but the bad news is it's been like 115 here, so nobody wants to even leave their doors, let alone get in a car and drive anywhere. So we've spent a lot more time in our pool than normal this year, because we have had more time to do that because we've been home all the time. As recently as 2 nights ago, it was still 110 degrees like 2 days ago. So we're looking forward to a little bit of that cool weather. So send it from North Dakota, Chad, whenever you can. We're looking forward to that. I've been at UGS for several years now. We have a strong presence in the GP community. We have a strong presence in the NAV and SL communities as well. And of course, the Dynamics 365 BC and F&O going forward. So we just want to continue to learn from you guys and be able to provide solutions that help you go digital and, manage your business better, more effectively. So our most recent release of our document management system, of course, integrates with the latest BC version, which is 16. So I can't wait to hear what Chad's going to share with about 17 for today. And I just want to learn from everybody and hear what everybody has to say, and kind of learn from the experts, and then look forward to seeing all of you at Summit this year virtually too. We'll have a virtual booth there. We've got a few sessions, so definitely look forward to connecting with you there too. So with that, I'll hand it over to Bob if he's here.
Mr. Silverware.
Yep, I'm here. Bob Silver with Silverware. I guess I do all the stuff around here that nobody else wants to do. That's my primary role. We like everyone else, we've been become very adept at using Teams and Zoom, and I haven't had to. I draw the line. I'm not going to use any Google. I said I just don't have another video platform technology in me, and I guess FaceTime with my kids, since they're all Apple phone users. So I have attended the UG conferences, and we're very sad we're not going to be in Nashville this year, but we look forward to getting back to them. I'm very excited because internally we're in the process of upgrading to BC 16 on-prem, and as soon as Microsoft gives us licenses for the cloud, we'll move to the cloud, because we're big believers in that. It's a great new platform, and we're very excited about it. Again, this is what I hope to get out of today is just really check in with everyone, see how people are doing, and hearing what their experience has been with kind of all the challenges that this new environment has laid out for us, and what are the tricks that they're using to meet them. So I guess who's up next?
I think that would be me. This is Dave Weiser at Tagunya. So happy to be here, to be a part of this. I think I'm the only one from Tagunya that's going to be here. I don't see the other two that are on, but I appreciate that. I'm a senior solution architect with Tagunya. Have been on both the user and the partner side for a number of years. Used to be, like Bob is now, in one of the leadership roles of the Seattle chapter. So really love the Seattle chapter and being part of that. Also currently sit on the board of advisors, so it's nice to be able to check in with the various chapters from time to time. During quarantine, I guess, frankly, to be honest, our life really, at least my life, really hasn't changed that much. Our company is a virtual company anyway. We tend to work from home, all of our employees. About the only thing that's really impacted us is obviously wearing masks everywhere and not being able to go to religious services right now. So that's really been the major impact. Other than that, we see family a lot still. So whether we should or not, I don't know. As far as the UG conferences, I have been attending them all pretty much over the last couple of years. I really enjoy it. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy just meeting everybody and just helping everybody. We support all the different versions of NAV, and I'm just really looking forward to just some of the educational content and some of the information that Chad will present later on as far as BC17. So we're looking at that too. So like I said, I don't think Steve or Tristan are here. I don't see them on the list. So I guess that would be, I don't see Edward on the list either. So Bob, I'll turn it over to you.
Do we want to have Brian introduce himself? Brian, I don't see you on the list.
Is that really Annalisa out there?
It is me.
Wow. I didn't think we were going to see you.
Well, the only Brian I know is me. This is Brian St. Clair. I'm the Director of Finance for Columbia Pulp over in Dayton, Washington. And my primary purpose, well, I guess the next question is, what have I done during quarantine? And our plant at Starbuck down by the Snake River closed April 1st due to COVID, and it wasn't because we had COVID, but rather it was because we couldn't get service or deliveries made to such a rural location because our vendors, companies, the people that make those decisions didn't want to send their people traveling that much. And so that, and there was a certain amount of fear in our employee base about working, with other people, even though we were considered one of those manufacturers that could continue to operate. We made the choice to close down because of just not being able to service the equipment that we have and to be able to get repair and maintenance parts for that equipment. Our corporate office closed at the same time. We kept on about 12 people total, and we had 110 people before we closed down. And we just reopened the corporate office in Dayton on early August, and we're back up to 31 people, but we have still not restarted the plant. So that's kind of what I've been doing during this time. As far as communicating with others, we've used Teams, we've used Skype, we've used Zoom. I think someone mentioned FaceTime with family. We've done a lot of that because half of our family is down in Southern California, where they're currently covered with smoke. But I have not attended a UG conference as of yet. I've been working with Columbia Pulp for 2 years now. And when I came on board, there was nobody using the NAV program for anything other than warehousing some data. And so my part of my workload has been trying to get us up and using NAV, and we use NAV 2017. My prior experience to anything Microsoft Dynamics was only on an AX system. Excuse me. So it's been a bit of the blind leading the blind. We've gotten quite a bit of help from Western Computer. Let's see, where does that leave me? What do you hope to gain? You know, the reason that I go to the NAVUG meetings over in Seattle on occasion is because, first of all, the additional knowledge I need to be able to gain, but also to be able to meet and rub shoulders with people that know a hell of a lot more than I do about NAV. And I appreciate everyone that's given me advice over the last 2 years. Much of that has come through NAVUG there in Seattle. So I think that's about it.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Brian.
And I don't see anybody to pass it on to,
No,
so I guess maybe I'm it.
We're gonna jump right into Amy's. Whoa, there we go. And so folks, we're not going to take any breaks. We're going to just keep rolling right on through here with the content. And if you gotta leave the room and take a break and come back, we understand. But we're trying to pack everything into a 2-hour slot. So we're going to jump right into Amy and her experience here with production orders. You ready, Amy?
Yes. Sorry, I had to get off camera for a second. I did have to take a break a minute ago. And then I forgot to shut my office door. And I think I mentioned my hound dog. So, okay, I'm going to see if I can do this first try. Share my screen. There we go. Okay. So I got to tell you, I have not made any presentations to anybody in over 2 years. But 2 years ago, it was my job to do this. So if I sound nervous, I am. And I'm going to minimize Bob over here. Okay. So better in case you wanted to watch yourself, Bob, I'm really sorry. So as I said, I'm Amy Baker-Ramstead. I am a business analyst for Kwik Lok in a lovely smoky Yakima, Washington. It's not as bad as it was on Monday. So what I want to talk about today is our quest for production order perfection. When Bob first emailed me and asked me if I wanted to present, I started thinking about it, and he said, you know, what are your favorite mods? What do you want to do with this? And then I remembered something that our partner helped us out with, and I started the outline of this presentation. And I thought, well, I'll present the problem that we had and the solution. And then I realized that was going to take all of 3 minutes. It was going to be very short and very boring. So I started thinking about this again and again. And after a little bit more thought, I started thinking of the whole process in terms of a hero's journey, like the mythical tales of yore. I thought this would be a little bit more interesting. NAV is not necessarily mythical or mystical, but I got to tell you, sometimes the questions and answers are way otherworldly for me. So this is just a little bit about us. We were founded in 1954. We are headquartered in Yakima. We have 6 plants in 5 different countries. And we are known for manufacturing the little plastic clips on bread or produce bags. And if you look at our little logo here on the building, this has got our Kwik Lok stamped into it, but this is what you're going to see skittering across your kitchen floor. When I moved from Portland to Yakima, I found about 5 of these on my back porch, and we don't even eat bread, so I'm not sure where that came from. Okay. So here's a basic outline of our quest. We always start with the ordinary world, and in the ordinary world, I got the usual, there is something wrong statement. So on the quest, we always have a helper, and our helper was Dave Weissman with Archer Point. We had challenges, obstacles, and enemies, and in the beginning, everything was the unknown, and that's always been my biggest challenge because I don't know what I don't know. We had the route home. Dave Weissman, actually our trusted helper, figured out what was wrong, and then we finally have the reward, which is our production order perfection. Okay, so here we go. In our ordinary world, this is just what happens. My journey loosely started with a couple questions by the controller and the CFO. They noticed that in some of our plants, there were a lot of inventory adjustments at the end of a period. A lot, way more than was acceptable. So that was my quest, and it was official. Figure out why some of the plants were making so many inventory adjustments and find a solution to fix it. By the way, notice my slide says symptoms identified. And again, it was because I didn't know what was wrong until much later. So I had all these funny symptoms of something being wrong. But again, I knew who to call. Dave had come on site to visit us in November. And so he had an idea of what we were all about and what we do. So with a specific goal in mind of digging into our production order process to identify what was going to be wrong and then create some best practices around that, we met with one of the plant managers to talk through our setup and steps to complete a production order. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't get my slide to advance. So before I go any further, for those of you who are not in manufacturing, here's some information on production orders. For me, the easiest and briefest way to describe a production order is it tells NAV what we're making. So got to have a production order. And then we have flushing. So flushing relates to the movement of inventory items during the manufacture of finished goods. If manufacturing is not your thing, this is going to be kind of boring, but I'll try to keep it going. So we have 2 of the 3 consumption methods that NAV offers here. Manual flushing records the consumption of products as it happens. We have a multi-step process for making the locks. We consume the resin, and we make extruded rolls of plastic. And then we consume the rolls of plastic to make slit reels. And then we consume the slit reels to make our finished product, which is the locks. So in all these steps, we use a manual flushing method, and we record the consumption on our journal and NAV. Backward flushing is what we use for shipping and shipping materials. Sorry, I thought there was another word in there. There's not. It's just shipping materials. And we use the backward flushing because we don't ship everything. So this records the consumption after the production order is finished or when a specific routing step is completed. So those are the 2 kinds of flushing that we use. Okay, now here we go. We have quest. Quest has to have challenges, obstacles, and enemies. And we had a few along the way. As I've said, one of the biggest obstacles for me was that I had little symptoms. So, but there was nothing obvious to pinpoint what was wrong. And this jumbled pile of locks over here is kind of what all that information felt like in my brain. So again, we've got Dave Weissman, and he reviewed the process with us, with one of the plant managers. And he noticed a couple things. Production orders were being finished or had that status changed to finished as soon as the manager knew the physical job was complete. And this is just how they were trained. And they were not shown a way to evaluate a production order before finishing. Unfortunately, when a production order is finished, whether it's correct or incorrect, it can't be reopened or modified. So if the consumption of materials is inaccurate, Then the production order is inaccurate, which leads to inaccurate inventory and a lot of negative inventory adjustments. We had physically consumed the goods, but NAV just didn't know about it. It also doesn't help that the plant managers couldn't really remember why they changed the status to finished so quickly. It was just a habit, but likely it was because the packing materials had a backward flush consumption. So if the order was not finished, the packing materials could not be consumed. Aha. So we had a big aha moment. Fortunately, Dave was able to make sense of all the information that our plant manager had provided to him and looked at our setup. And so the pile of jumbled locks was now a smooth route to success. I hope you like my slides. So if the consumption of packing materials, which is the back flush method, was the reason to finish the production order, then Dave suggested we make the packing materials be consumed at output of finished goods, not the finishing of the production order. This is going to give the plant managers time to review the production orders before finishing them. So the fix is, I used a routing link code on the routings and production bombs of the backward flush items to make sure that they were consumed again at that time rather than the finishing of the production order. It was a fast and easy fix on my side and way beyond my experience. I want to caution you, I'm not here to tell you how to change your consumption on your production orders or change anything. I'm here to say if you're having problems with inaccurate finished production orders, ask your consultant if this might be a solution. And wait, there's more. So that only solved the consumption. I wanted to give the plant managers a way to check the production orders for approximate accuracy. So this is where the item statistics come in. NAV compiles the costs associated with the production order and displays that information in the item statistics. It's a super quick way to compare your standard or expected cost with your actual cost. And then if there's large difference, you can figure out what you want that threshold to be. Then possibly you need to dig in more because all the materials may not have been consumed. So there we are. We had our shining path home. Now here's the reward. We've crushed some obstacles. We conquered our enemies. The unknown is now the known. And here we go. We've got accuracy. Our plant managers now have a tool to review the production orders before changing the status. And we're no longer writing off large amounts of inventory. Consistency. Our production orders are predictably accurate and the plants are all following the same process. And then spare time. And for years, when I taught classes, I would always say that spare time is a myth. Spare time hangs out with unicorns and spare money. But it did give everybody extra time so that we can start on other challenges. That's it.
So
questions, comments?
Yeah. I have questions, Bob, not to cut you off.
Go for it.
Okay. I think somebody's got a little bit of an echo because I hear myself twice here. So Amy, you mentioned that your solution included routing link codes.
Yes.
Did you already have your routing split out into different steps, or did you have to go through and make the decision, how do I break my routing out into steps?
No, the routings were already set up for us. I kind of inherited NAV. I started with the company about a year into NAV, so the routings were already set up in steps for us. And I added the routing link code on the last routing.
Nice. So, and then my follow-up question was, as you're developing new products, have what you've learned here informed the decisions you're making in like item master configuration going forward? Are you making your new items a little bit differently now?
I would like to say yes, but we haven't. But we haven't had as many new products. They are just versions of the current product. We do have an Eco Lock, by the way. So for those of you who are concerned with that, there is a much more environmentally friendly option. And it's really just changing the bombs rather than the routings. They all go through the same routing.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you. As an ops guy, that was really interesting.
Oh, good. I always worry about that. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else? Amy, I just wanted one clarification.
Yeah.
On the aha moment and the action taken. Was it simply a procedure change of waiting another step farther in the process before finishing the production order, or was there actually a coding change within NAV that was the change?
The specific change was adding that routing link code on the routings and then making sure that that worked with the production bomb. So that was the biggest part of it. That was my portion of it. And to me, education is important, because if you don't know what you're doing wrong, you're going to make the mistake again. And when the plant managers were saying that they didn't have a way to check to see if everything had been consumed, that was part of the aha as well. So I made sure that we gave them an option. Of course, my first reaction is always going to be, oh, let me write a JET report. Sure, I can do that. But that would have been another step for them. So finding those statistics within NAV, within the tool, was a much easier resolution for them.
Cool. Great.
That answer your question?
Thanks for clarity. Any other questions? We're ready to rock on into presentation 2. You can breathe now, Amy.
Thanks. Okay. Stacy.
All right.
I know how you're feeling, so that's why I wanted to go first. Good luck. You're gonna do great.
Okay, Stacy, you ready to go?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So what I wanted to talk about today was just some of the reporting challenges that we experience at Classic, and what some of the things we are doing today to try to solve those issues. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit, because we are right in the midst of a re-implementation, just talk about what that process is like so far, and kind of relate it back to some of the reporting issues that we are having today. So just a quick little background on myself. I've been with Classic and working with NAV for about 3 years. About a year ago, I also received my Lean Knowledge Certificate, which just means that I'm always looking for opportunities to improve processes. Right now, in my current role, that also includes financial reporting, which is a new component to my role. So we've also recently had a lot of changes to the reporting requirements, I'd say, over the past year. So we're kind of figuring that all out at the same time as we go. Before I worked for Classic, I worked as a senior accountant for Jean Juarez Salons, and we used an ERP that was called Traverse. Don't know if anybody in the room is familiar with Traverse, but the joke was always that we had won it in a poker game, because nobody knew why we used it, how it was set up, even how transactions flowed through the system. And I just was way too curious and couldn't let it sit at that, and just started poking around in the different modules and figuring out how transactions flowed into the GL. So that meant that when it was time for them to do about a 10-year upgrade, I had the opportunity to lead that project for the accounting team. And then about 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to go work for the Allen Institute in South Lake Union. They were right in the middle of an implementation of Oracle Cloud ERP. And in a lot of ways, that project, it was totally hit by the perfect storm, because right in the middle of the implementation, the controller, the accounting manager, and several other key representatives from different departments all left the organization at the same time. So When I came on board, the project was probably 3/4 of the way complete, but only maybe 15% functional. And even today, that many years later, they're still facing significant challenges. So all that is just to say that I've seen an implementation or re-implementation and upgrade go very well, and I've seen it go not so well, and kind of just have an awareness of some of the pitfalls that can come up. So with that, I'll just kind of get right into some of the reporting challenges that we are experiencing today at Classic. So the first thing I've noticed is so many times when we're asked to create a report, we're not given nearly enough information about the requirements. So I might get a request like, can you run me a report of all the returns for Walmart and Home Depot? But I need to know a lot more information in order to provide something useful. So I need to know, what period of time do you need this report to cover? What information and fields do you need? Do you just need a monthly total of the total dollars returned, or do you need item level detail, return reason, things like that? And so this was a real request that had come in to me recently. So we went back and asked some of those follow-up questions. But another challenge that we face in our organization for this specific request was that our warehouse doesn't process returns in NAVUG in a timely manner. So just for a little context, we have nearly 300 pallets of unprocessed returns at this time. So what that means is that real-time information about returns isn't even available at that customer or item level at this time. So for this one, we didn't even really have a choice but to refer the person requesting that report directly to Home Depot and Walmart and see what kind of information they could provide. So let's just say another example, even if we do have real-time data in the system, we still have challenges about the way that we pull data being maybe inconsistent between one person and another. Some of the examples that we have run into challenges with even include maybe different filters. So we may need to be reporting on item sales, and if somebody doesn't know that they need to do a filter for line type item, then that report includes GL and resources and other things like that. So I think the main thing we're trying to address right now is documenting our process for how to create reports in a way that is consistent to kind of avoid that issue. And also, how can we avoid manual data collection? Because we all know how prone to errors that can be. And so those are kind of some of the key things that we're trying to address, as well as coming up with some self-service solutions. So some of the things that we think about, who is consuming the report, what business decisions are they going to be using the report for? So I don't know if anybody has any questions they can add now, or there'll be time at the end as well. But I did want everybody to kind of think about what are some of the questions that you ask when you're defining reports, and see if there are some things that you've thought of that we have not, and that we could share with one another. All right, so for those challenges.
Those were the crickets speaking up. Fine.
Okay, thanks.
We're still here.
Okay, good. I couldn't see anybody. So for those challenges that I mentioned, with the data inaccuracy or inconsistency, just like I said, we're working on documenting not only our procedures, our daily procedures in accounting, but also how should we build reports, and kind of putting some of that down on paper as well, or having it recorded that this is how we always pull sales data, or this is how we always pull data on returns, that kind of thing. We are also working on building what we're calling a report repository, but basically if any reports are requested from the finance team, we're saving those reports in a specific location so that if another request comes through, we can see, do we already have something similar, and you know, we just need to modify it slightly. And then that way we're kind of working toward also having some more self-service solutions through that kind of collection of reports that we've built in the past. One thing that was requested, so with our finance team and our daily operations, there are several reports that go out on a daily or weekly basis. And in our prior process, those could have been sent out by anyone on the team. So we ended up creating a separate email alias. So any official reports that are sent from finance come from an email alias that says CA Financial Reporting. So that way, when people are looking up older versions of the reports that they've been sent, they don't have to care whether Stacy sent the report or Jenna sent the report or Zach sent the report. So that's just one thing that we've done to kind of help our end users be able to go back and find things easily. And then we're also working on you know, creating more dashboards and things that a user can modify and put in their own criteria and display results, either, you know, for a specific time period or customer, depending on what they need. So the biggest overall change in the reporting requirements that we've had in the past year is to really break things down at a much more granular level. So where before we may have just reported, you know, our total gross sales, now we have to report that by market channel, and, you know, sometimes even to specific customers or groups of customers. And so with that, we're working through, you know, what is the best way to do that? Because today that process takes easily 12 hours to kind of compile all of this data that we need for our monthly reporting packets. So one of the things that we'll be doing moving forward, for example, will be utilizing dimensions, because that's not something that we have used in the past. So, you know, just kind of working through those things now. And as we are working on our re-implementation from this very, very old version of NAV to the Business Central 16, we are really focusing on using the system the way that it was designed and built. So part of our reason that we hadn't upgraded sooner is because we had we had a lot of modifications in the system. And so that made upgrades really challenging. So we also experience a lot of bottlenecks with usage. I think, as I mentioned before, we've got about 50 or 60 licenses. And so hopefully we can resolve some of those issues as well with our upgrade. So the scope of our project was defined in partnership with Silverware, which is our partner. And so I listed some of the modules here and functions that will be a part of the scope of our project. So, you know, of course, we're using GL and financials, accounts payable and receivable, and et cetera. For warehouse specifically, we do use Lanham eShip. And so Lanham is also a part of our implementation project, and we also use them, you know, for EDI, some EDI as well. So that is kind of the overall scope of our project and what it's going to cover. So some of the things I kind of would consider this partially considerations and then partially what are key requirements in order to have a successful launch. So the things that we're considering are, you know, what are these reporting requirements that we have today, and also thinking into the future, what might be required in the future if the business expands, you know, in different ways. So we need to be having conversations with the executive team and understanding what kind of projections they see for the business in the future. And as I mentioned with the GL, we're going to start using dimensions to kind of augment our GL structure. So just as recently as yesterday, we thought that we might blow up our GL and make a massive chart of accounts in order to accomplish the reporting that we needed. And it sounds like we may be able to accomplish a lot of that just simply by utilizing dimensions. So that is a change that just came out of a meeting yesterday. And then, you know, as I've kind of mentioned, we're just doing our best to avoid any additional modifications or extensions as we can. And when I get kind of into what I think of are the key requirements in order to have a successful project, the main thing I think is participation. So everybody that is a part of the project, you know, we have representatives from every team, you know, within the organization and all the NAV users, so that, you know, you don't end up with just one department kind of leading the entire project and, you know, not considering what the other departments need and how they utilize the system. I'd say the biggest thing that we have done just in preparation for this project, which is, you know, many years in the making, has been just documenting our current processes. What do we do today in NAV? We've spent about the past year or two documenting these just in a very manual way, just in Word documents. But this is something that we're able to provide to Silverware and say, okay, here's how we do this process today. And then it also helps us when we are learning how it's going to work in the new system to already kind of have something to work with so that we can make any adjustments that we need to in order to use the system, you know, the way that it was intended. So we're well aware that there will likely be a lot of process changes that we need to make in order to kind of have that fit work out well. And then the other thing that we want to make sure that we're paying attention to and considering are what are those exceptions, because we all know that, you know, the day-to-day processes are fine, but you can really see a project get derailed kind of late in the game if your exceptions to the rule aren't exposed until, you know, toward the end in the testing phase and stuff. So we're trying to make sure to kind of have an awareness and have some of those exceptions documented as, you know, included as part of our documentation as well, so that we can bring those up early and often in our conversations with our project manager. So we have an aggressive timeline. We have a go live date of March 1st. And so that means that by the end of this month, there are several different things that, you know, will be complete. You can see all the stuff here that, you know, we plan to have done. And right now we have had our first kickoff meeting, and I'd say at this point we're right into the discovery sessions. We've been having those, so those are coming up multiple times a week, where different departments are meeting with our project manager and explaining what it is we do today, what are the challenges that we're experiencing today, and talking through, you know, what kind of options will be available in the new system to handle those. I think one of the things that we want to make sure that we are aware of is, with this timeline, the way it sits today, we could run into an issue where we don't have adequate time to do all of the testing that needs to get done. So, you know, I'd like to see how we can kind of make any adjustments so that we have the opportunity to kind of do some practicing in some version of what Business Central will look like for us with, you know, some of our own data. So that's one of the things that we're kind of currently talking about as a group. And as we go throughout, we'll have lots of different checkpoints, but we're going to have kind of some internal tracking. Of course, you know, the Silverware team and our project manager will have their own tracking as well. So one of the things that I've seen done for this type of tracking before is, you know, kind of like a red, yellow, green stoplight kind of system. So, you know, you might have a listing of all your open items and you designate whether they're, you know, stopping workflow, or are they, you know, something that maybe is yellow where it's could be better, but it's not, you know, holding anything up. So we'll have, that'll be kind of more how our internal tracking will be done. And then we're just making sure that there's a lot of collaboration between teams, lots of communication. And I think one of the things that we just really, one of the pitfalls that I've seen before is either decisions that have been made by, I'll say the wrong person, but essentially somebody with not enough information about the impacts upstream and downstream from their process. Or sometimes you get to a point where you have to make a decision that has a positive impact to one team and negative impact to the other team. So we need to be kind of always coming back and refocusing on the needs of the organization and making sure that those are our top priorities, and kind of coming together and collaborating to make sure that we can find solutions to those challenges. And because we want to make sure that we're using the system the way that it was built, there'll be a process as well for just making sure that any modifications are reviewed and approved. So I think we need to have a definition of what success looks like so that we can put our progress up against that and make sure that we are on track. And I think that's some of the main things and key points in that are going to be: are we able to produce the type of reporting that we need? And do we have the ability to get reporting information to our users, either real time, whether that's self-service or otherwise, so that essentially the users of that data have it ready for them and can make the decisions that they need to make based off of it. So with that,
Stacy, take a breath. We get a chance to ask a couple of questions. Dan has kind of a comment question he put in chat, and wonder if he wants to open up his mic and just ask this question or comment directly on the report definitions. Dan, can you unmute and ask your question? He was asking.
Yeah, I was just making a comment about the challenge that we've had as far as getting this kind of a disconnect between the business leaders who are looking for information and the tech team who's able to produce the information. And the tendency is that the business leaders, they can't get it. It's not an existing report. They can't find it in NAV, and NAV must just not do that. And they don't ask us. And, we could just, throw together a JET report or a Power BI or something, but they don't ask. And so that's just been a challenge. We're overcoming it slowly, just kind of becoming our, better cheerleaders for ourselves, saying, hey, we can do some of this stuff. But I'm just wondering, what's your experience been with that?
I think one of the things Stacy just brought up was this getting defined what success is and what the actual business requirements are that aren't being met, so that they can channel towards answering those questions that aren't being answered with the reporting or the current solution, so that those can be actually addressed. Right, Stacy?
Yeah, well, and I think that's actually a really interesting perspective that you bring up, because I don't think I have ever experienced business leaders not asking the question. I've been asked so many different types of questions that, have been, not readily available in a system. So I do think that's interesting. So I think you're doing a great job by championing your group and making sure that there's visibility and that they know that you're there and can help with those types of requests. So I think maybe the more public that those become, or the more that people are able to see that you can produce those types of things, the more they'll know to come to you. But yeah, I think that's interesting, that they'll just look at the system and assume that it can't be done.
Yeah, well, I think in our case, it was one particular leader in the financial team that was kind of being the showstopper, and that person has left, and things have changed and gotten better. So, but yeah, it's interesting for us.
Yeah, sometimes it's just as simple as the labeling and definition of what something is in a report, like a finance person saying, well, we just don't get accurate reports because I see, July sales as this number and the sales VP sees July sales as that number, and one is looking at order dates and the other one's looking at invoice dates, and they're not coming together with the same coming to the same conclusion, because it just, the date range was defined differently with the two different reports and coming up with two different numbers, and it looks like inaccurate data to them, but it's just needing to get on the same page and define by the proper dates and get all the transactions summed up into the report that are affecting that. Amy, I had one other question on the process documentation. Are you considering or evaluating QuickLearn as a tool for building those documents and rolling forward into the new version?
We are definitely considering different options. I think one of the biggest challenges with the documentation project we've done over the past couple of years is how do we update these efficiently, and how do we make sure that they are, staying live and accurate and that kind of thing. So we're definitely looking for options that make it simpler to create them and modify them. So it seems like QuickLearn, I'm not familiar with it enough to know how it helps in that way, but I'm interested to know more about it.
Yeah. Is there anybody else on the line that has used QuickLearn that can share?
I've used it a little bit. I do know that it's very easy to edit specific steps. So if you've got like 20 steps in your process and one step, you have to make one little modification to it, it's very easy to jump in at any point of the process and make a change to it.
Great. So maybe, well, actually, I know they have stuff coming up at Summit. They've started to push out marketing towards that. So we'll see what's coming.
I have a question for you, Stacy. I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have anything else for Stacy?
Yeah, one more question.
I do. Stacy, you mentioned that you're working on keeping modifications to a minimum, which is fantastic. Are there any members of your project team that are kind of resistant to that idea and say, well, if I can modify it, why are you telling me I can't? And they don't seem to be on board with that. Have you encountered that at all? And if so, how have you handled it?
I have not encountered that. And so far, I think maybe it's just been part of the discussion since the very beginning that was our intention. So if anything, the discussions are more around, I know you don't want to modify, so, here's kind of what the other options are. I think that what I am concerned about, I guess, overall with modifications are if there are conversations happening, like these discovery sessions with another department, and maybe just with Lanham or just with Silver or something like that, how do we make sure that there aren't modifications happening, and kind of getting approved without sort of an overall buy-in from the team? So I think that it is very helpful that our partner and project manager do know that that's very important to us, and they can kind of help keep that on track. But yeah, that's what we've seen so far.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, you appear to be talking on mute.
I was talking on mute, wasn't I? We have another presenter. Our Microsoft headline we want to hand over to and give him as much time as he's got available, and give him a green light to go into overtime as well.
Okay.
Chad, I had a slide to introduce you on, but I may have just stepped on. I think I did. So let me step out and have you take over.
Did that work? Can you see the road ahead?
There you go. Yep.
Business Central. Okay. Well,
We
thank you
got you.
again.
Thank you very much.
I will go through this. Please do ask any questions as you see fit, and I can stay a little bit longer. Hopefully a few of you can as well, but let's just talk a little bit about the roadmap for Business Central as we work towards what we're calling our Wave 2 2020 release. So as I may have described in other sessions, we do two major versions a year. We have a Wave 1, which is generally April, and we have a Wave 2, which is generally October. And in between there, of course, we do hot fixes and service packs and other types of things, but the features come out in those two waves. We've also taken an effort in the last 18 months especially to put forward our release notes. And so you can find these release notes well in advance of our Wave 2 release. These have been public since July. I have a link at the end of the deck with these different release notes. But it talks not just about Business Central, it talks about all of the Dynamics 365 products, as well as the Power Platform products, Power BI, Power Apps, Flow, and their new names. So you can get this, it's a very long document, but you can see all the different things, and then if you're taking dependencies on any of these applications, you understand what will be coming over the next wave of release functionality. So for Business Central, in this semester, so between April and October, Wave 2, we really continued on with the same themes that we've been on in the last year, which is, number one, we need to continue to build out a world-class cloud service. We have made it very clear that Business Central Online is one of the key tenets of our future. It's our key SMB product for ERP solution that we will carry forward and put our energy behind. And so we have migration into that from our other on-prem products into that cloud service. But as such, we need to make sure that it performs well, that it scales both in terms of users, in terms of transaction volume, in terms of data that it can handle as a shared tenant application. We also have continued on the work with a modern and productive user interface. You've seen this in the last couple of releases with a web client interface. That is the interface now for Business Central, both on-prem and for Business Central Online. As you get to the last version, which is 16X, that is where we put our energy. It's very nice, it's very modern, it's very sleek, and it's very intuitive, particularly for new users that are starting to use the system as you have new additions to your staff or new, perhaps, companies or locations that you bring on board. We have modern ISV and VAR tools. So we have worked very closely with the ISVs, not only those on the call, but any of the ISVs that you're used to in your journey with NAV, and really bringing forward and offering programs from an investment standpoint, from a tooling standpoint, from the modernization of the architecture of Business Central so that they bring forward and come from NAV to Business Central, both online and on-premise. And then, of course, the integrated Microsoft solutions. So we have great Office integration, we have great Power Platform integration, and with this release, you'll see our first foray into Teams integration. So that'll be announced in October. Now, I didn't put all of the things that we've done in here. Actually, I do have one slide that rolls very, very quickly. So if you play that one back, maybe you can see it. But we first and foremost look out at the BC Ideas site. And we do listen to that. A lot of the features that we've delivered in this semester, again, are directly from feedback you've given us, feedback your peers have given us, feedback partners have given us on features, functionality, performance, other things, even as what was presented today on reporting in some of those areas. That's what we prioritize. That's what makes it into our release a lot of the times. And just in this semester, so the last 6 months, we have added over 100 enhancements to Business Central again. And this covers the gamut from all of those different things that I talked about from a platform perspective, from a client perspective, from an application perspective, and from a migration perspective. So there's a lot of new functionality to digest, to learn about, and to see what makes sense for your organization as we look. Now, I'm not going to go through all 100 of those, I promise. I've captured just a couple of highlights in the application space, in the client space, and in the migration space. And of course, then at the end, I do have the link to that roadmap slide, our roadmap deck, that will allow you to go and read more about the details of what's coming in this wave. So let's talk first about application and some of the improvements that we have with application. The first is the Business Central Company Hub. For those of you that are dealing with multiple companies within Business Central, and you are trying to go back and forth between those different companies, log in and out and see that different information, we've leveraged a tool that we built actually for accountants a couple of years ago, and we've repurposed that into a Business Central Company Hub that allows you as a user to go out to one dashboard and see all the different companies that you have access to and a couple of the key performance metrics or KPIs for each of those companies. So you have a snapshot, a role center snapshot that tells you how things are going, gives you indications, red, green, yellow, thresholds that you've set. But not only that, you can click on that particular company. You can get one level of detail down without leaving that dashboard. So you can go back and forth between that information. But then if you want to work on behalf of or go into a particular company, there's a hyperlink right there that allows you to log in through universal login, because we understand who you are through AAD, and directly into that company to do work. So it should speed up that process for those of you that have to work across multiple companies for the role that you have. High risk change notification. Some of the settings on the change log functionality, we can now set that you are notified in case there are business critical data that may be impacted or changed. That'll send a notification to whoever you want it to in the company so that they can track that, make sure it's done correctly and doesn't circumvent any of the security or certainly cause any problems for your business going forward. And then in Role Center, we've done a number of updates again around the default company roles, our included roles, as well as added more roles to the Role Center so that you can filter those and look at them more easily and change those roles quite easily from a user perspective. So that is an area you're going to want to check out just from an application area. I added a couple of more on here. We spent and heard a great deal of feedback on bank reconciliation, and that the way that we did the bank reconciliation just wasn't always as simple and as intuitive as it could be. So we've put a pretty good amount of effort into it in this release, in this version, to improve that process of reconciling across. You can see that we have a bank account reconciliation page that will include now features to cancel a posted bank rec. That allows you to recover more quickly from any mistakes that might be made. And then we auto reconcile the differences. We also have the payment reconciliation journal supports application against employee ledger entries, allowing one-to-many matching. And then we have new guides will assist users setting up a new company or setting up bank and bank opening balances so that the first initial setup is much improved as well. So if you are into bank reconciliation, if you have employees that do a lot of that work, certainly an area you're going to want to check out. And then I mentioned the Office integration. We're going to introduce Teams integration so that if you are using Teams, using team channels, and you want to share customer information, you do still need the right access in order to see it, but if you have a question amongst your sales team and you want to highlight something on this particular sales order, you can type that directly into Teams, and if that person has access to that document, they can render as a quick snapshot some of that information within Teams. So that's an area that you'll want to check out when you have a chance and you want to look at that Wave 2 feature functionality. Around client, continue to work on client accessibility. That's a very important area for us. One of the things that we've done a lot of work on this time is accessibility for low vision users. Our zooming wasn't working the way that we wanted it to. And so we want to provide a maximum of 400% browser zoom and actually fill that chart and have things not break off, but fit the context within the screen so that people can use that. We also did a lot of work around color contrasting. so that those that have color challenges, we can meet those accessibility guidelines. And you can see the proper distinction between the two color contrasts across charts and tiles and context menus as well. Our report request page now can open multiple previews. This is very big for users that want to take and look at different reports. You can open multiple previews one by one without closing the main window. And so this is a nice usability thing that really enhances and improves that process along the way. And then there are mobile apps. So we have, of course, the telephone apps, or the phone apps, sorry, for both iPhone and Android. These now can access not only production, but multiple production instances or sandbox environments that you have within your organization. So you're no longer limited to a default production instance and then have to figure out all that configuration. You can choose those as you are within the application and switch between your multiple production or sandbox environments right from your mobile device. In terms of data migration, we've heard in several of the intros, those of you that are upgrading to different on-prem versions, we've heard from a couple that have gone to the online version, or part of the process is to upgrade to a more current on-prem version so that you can move to the online version. And with this, I wanted to explain a little bit of what we're doing, not only from the tooling perspective, but one of the real big features that I'm excited about is the Smart List Designer. We have people on the phone here or on this call that have experience with Dynamics GP. And those of you that understand Dynamics GP, one of the key features of GP was the Smart List capability. And not only the Smart List capability, but a designer tool that allowed you to merge any data that you wanted from multiple sources into a particular smart list. So it's an ad hoc reporting solution. We are introducing Smart List Designer to Business Central. We've built this as a Power App. It allows you to take and create your own custom query with the proper rights, of course, through security, but you can join different tables. You can put master key on the table, you can add columns, you can filter columns, you can do all the things that you want, and then we render that back into a query page within Business Central. So it's a very powerful solution. We've had it in private preview for the last couple of months with a select group of partners, and now this will be available when the Wave 2 release comes out at the beginning of October for all of you to use and to render new smart lists on the query pages within Business Central. In addition, we continue to support migration from the supported versions of Business Central, which include 14x, 15x, 16 and 17x. So this may be a good time just to briefly talk about what that is, because we went from NAV 2018 to Business Central 2018 to Business Central, and then we have these different names. So 14x, those are the build numbers behind the scenes. Our vision of an online service is that you're always on the current version. That's why we do the monthly upgrades. That's why we do, that's why we basically bring you forward and you're always on Business Central. However, there are slight differences, of course, when we add new features to 17x. ISVs need to understand what their solution is built for and if it's working against the current version. Particularly when you go to on-prem, we needed a way to delineate. So you'll see us talk about Business Central, but we may ask what version of Business Central you're on, whether it be 14x, which was basically spring of 2018. Yeah, I'm double checking myself. 16x, no, that was 2019. 16x was spring of 2020, and now 17x this fall. And I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide here of what this colorful matrix looks like. So those of you that are on older versions of NAV, what is your path to a current on-prem version and to online version? All of the, from NAV 2015 to Business Central, a version that came out October of 2018, all have an upgrade to Business Central 14x. And To put it simply, and you heard Bob say this earlier, 14X is the last version that allows, that is built on CAL and C-side and allows code customization in the form that you've been used to in NAV for all those years. What we were doing when we built the online service is we recognized that to have a monthly update, whether it be minor or to have those 2 major versions every year, we couldn't have a world where every single customer had major code customization, so there was no unique pattern for you to upgrade. That's why some of you are on versions like NAV 2009. That's why some are on versions like NAV 2016. It becomes quite complex, and up to 6 months in some cases, maybe longer, to migrate from an older version of on-prem to current. So we introduced an extension framework using events, which basically meant we said, okay, here's the core of Business Central. Now, if we have an ISV, they're going to build an ISV solution, and they're going to call into these contracted API points. So anytime we upgrade the core, we've kept this contract in place, and any changes that we make, they only have to react to a couple of things on those without code customizing everything. The same is true of personalizations and customizations that you make going forward. So 15X, 16X, 17X on-prem, and in the cloud. Any customization you do will now be wrapped as an extension. So it decouples from the core, keeps the core intact, and then it interjects where you need it to as a customization, which means that we can roll forward new versions and you will be, for the most part, unaffected by those changes, and or we will have the tooling that allows you to say, okay, this code customization is having error here, so go check that area. Maybe there's a new contract, maybe there's deprecation that we had to do, etc. So all of that means the path is to get to 14X, then to spend time migrating the code from CAL to AL, your code customizations to extensions. And then you can move directly from any of those on-prem versions when that work is done, directly into a SaaS solution. Now, when we come out this fall, 17X will be on this list. So I could have added it today, it was a little bit early, but we can also go directly from 17X. So for example, the last presenter, you spoke about doing the migration to 16X on-prem. That means you're going through the work already to move to AL. You're going through the work already to go extensions only, which means your upgrade, should you decide at some point in time that you want to go from on-prem to cloud, is really, really simple. We have migration tools that help with that. You have the architecture in place that you need to have in place. You're using the ISVs in the way that they're meant to be used. And so that is a pretty straightforward path to move from on-prem to cloud. 15X is the same, 17X is the same, 14X needs work in order to do that, and then you can move into the cloud. But that's how we handle, and that's how we think about on-prem to cloud migration. So I just have 2 more slides I'll go through, and then I'll try to open it up to questions here. Roadmap slide. We talked before, and so basically, if you look at this roadmap, April 2018 was the last version that we had something called NAV for on-prem, and we have something called Business Central for cloud. That has been merged into a single code base. So in October 2018, everything was called Business Central. From here on out, everything ships out of one universal code branch. So everything we code goes in, and then you as the user decide, am I going to deploy this in a Microsoft service, or am I going to deploy it on-prem? That's where we're at. Now, April presented the last time that we shipped a version of CAL, which essentially means complete code customization outside of that extension framework. That's the 14X version of on-prem. October 29 was 15X, which was AL only, was no C-side, was extensions only. And so from that point forward, those are the modern way of Business Central operating and being built and architected so that it can be upgraded very quickly, and you can take new releases and you can move to the cloud very seamlessly. So some of you may find moving to the April 2019 version is a good stepping stone. Then do the work that you want to do to get to modern on-prem and or go directly to the cloud at that particular time. So where are we at today? We're about 3 short weeks away from delivering the October 2020 version, 17X. We focused on 100+ features, as I mentioned before. I talked about a few of those. These were the general areas. We had further geographic expansion. We had better with Office 365, some productivity, and then again, continued migration tooling, not only for BC to BC, but we've done a lot of work around Dynamics GP on-prem and their ability to move to Business Central, Dynamics SL on-prem, and their ability to move to Business Central. So that we have a path for all of our Microsoft SMB products to an online version, if that's the path that you choose as a customer and an organization. And then going forward, we continue to operate in this wave 1, wave 2 cadence. And so we have planned now and are just about to start building our wave 1 2021 feature set. That will be in the April timeframe is when that will release. But that's how we look at what is the next area of investment. It's a lot of the things we've already done. We need to continue to build out that service. Of course, there's different enhancements across the area that we want for applications, Office integration, Power Platform, and then ISV acceleration, continuing to work with our ISV partners to ensure that they're in Business Central. For those of you that are online or have looked at AppSource, which is the marketplace for apps for Business Central Online, last I looked, there were over 930 apps available in AppSource. So we have a huge, huge marketplace right now for ISV applications. Most all of them that you're used to from your on-premise experience are in AppSource. Those that aren't, we're working hand in hand to bring them and to help them and to work together to see what it will take to get them into Business Central Online as well. But there's a very substantial ecosystem right now as well. As I mentioned on the call to action, these are the different release notes. So those are the links that you have to see what was in 2020 Wave 1, what is coming in 2020 Wave 2. Also, you can enter your ideas site with the work that we're now preparing for Wave 1 2021. We'll probably put those release notes out in sometime in early December. So it's months ahead of the time that it will land in market to give you an opportunity to plan your investment areas. If you don't see what you need on the list, it gives you an opportunity to vote more on ideas or to say I need an ISV, or perhaps you build a personalization through the extension. Again, we are done with the Windows client. All of our work now is on the web client, the modern client. So you'll want to make sure that everything is working against the modern client, and then start your preparation and moving from CAL to AL using the tools that we have, one of them called the Text to AL tool. So I flew through that. I will now take a breath and see if I still have an audience and if there are questions.
Yeah, we do have some questions in chat that I went ahead and just started breaking them out into smaller ones from me. So you can take them in any order that you like if you want to just grab one. Let's see.
All right, it's on the chat.
So, yeah, so I'll go ahead and start on just reading the one off the top there. You mentioned BC and Teams, Business Central and Teams integration, and that you're going to be able to publish data out to a Teams group through the Teams client. Is that right? Or is it a Teams add-on application?
Yeah, so within Teams, so long as you have the integration add-on for Business Central, it's not going to be its own panel on the left-hand side. But during a Teams chat or in that area of Teams, you'll be able to enter customer information. So perhaps you're looking for, worldwide importers or something as a vendor, and you have a question on one of the invoices they sent. If you type that invoice number in, and you and I both have the right access to Business Central, that information will display in there. So I can see it right within Teams. So it's a way to collaborate either as a buying group or as a sales group, or maybe as a collections team to say, hey, does anyone know why this bill hasn't been paid on this invoice or on this customer invoice, sales invoice, etc.
So, but it sounds like it's actually the page that shows up in the Teams window, not a screen share of your page that's rendered on your browser.
That's correct. So in order to make sure that we have the right people with the right access, certainly you could cut and paste that in. That's certainly up to the user. But if I simply mention it as an @ just like I would today, if I put @BobStar, it would come up with your information. I could hover over that and I could see a small panel that has some of your data about it. That will be the same kind of way that we do this. So if I have an @ mention of a vendor or an @ mention of a customer, I forget the actual card that pops up. There's a small card that pops up that is generic information I can see. And then if I have the right access, I can say see more. It still stays within the context of Teams. It's not going to open another internet browser page, but it renders more information, whether it's that invoice and some of the data on that invoice right within that pop-out card within Teams.
So we can expect a similar experience with an Excel sheet that's stored in SharePoint within Teams that you can actually open, edit, save right within the Teams app?
I would say it's not quite the same as that. That would be basically Excel Online that's rendered right there. So this isn't BC Online. We're not trying to render the whole application in there, but we are taking a snapshot of the data, and you can see it in there.
Okay. So more of a push this page as a report to view it in the Teams app. Okay.
Yeah. And then you would go into Business Central to actually modify the data.
Great. So is that the direction? What are the other priorities of Teams integration? Was my original question. Where do you begin and focus on to have things work in Teams?
I think there's a number of things we could do, and so I wouldn't say we tiptoed into this. This is a pretty good, first foray into Teams. But there are different areas we'd like to study from a customer usage standpoint, how you share that information. We had a vision with external accountants, for example, how much would they be able to share with their clients right within Teams so that you could have certain data and certain answers being made directly there. So right now, we're planning some wave 1 work. We haven't landed on exactly what scenarios we're going to do. So I would say this is the tip of the iceberg of what we're starting with Teams. And then we'll share more as we get a little further along with wave 1 2021 work.
Yeah. I think as a community, we've kind of been force-fed the learning how to work in Teams and other collaboration tools over the last 6 months. Anybody else a question that you want to just do verbally?
I see the Smart List Designer question. Will the Smart List Designer shared as a Power App be usable in previous versions? That will only be available for 17X. So that is a new feature for the latest version of Business Central.
Okay. So Smart List Designer is only for current newest version. And then the other question I had there was on the high-risk change notification. That is very interesting. Like we've seen catastrophic things like a decimal place off on a sales tax calculation for a specific tax zone being a catastrophic change that nobody noticed until it was too late. So how is that driven? How do you decide what is a high risk? Is that at a field table attribute or?
It is. I didn't download the data on that one. Let me see.
This is one of those forward-looking things that you mentioned that we go, oh, maybe we shouldn't customize and develop that notification report if we get this for free when we get current with the next version.
So what I've pulled out of this one, and this was done by one of my peer teams, but what I've pulled out of this is you can, it must be field level, because it says you can expect to be notified of changes in fields that contain high risk and business critical data, such as bank account numbers, company name, and addresses. It is something you define. So you can now define a list of fields that contain these high risk and business critical data you want to be notified about when they are changed. So it appears it's at a field level, and a field level defined by you of the things that you care to be notified of, or have someone set up to say notify, you know, Grant or Stacy or whoever on these particular ones.
Sounds like it's the change log configuration is being updated with this as an alert attribute there.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Okay. Great. Any other questions for Chad, folks? Awesome.
Well, thanks
There's
for hanging with me.
a thanks from Mary. Awesome. Okay. Well, one of the questions I had for the group, Chad, is what do you think immediate feedback here on Teams versus Zoom for our for our all virtual meetings, assuming we have to do all virtual on the next go around in a couple months?
I gotta say, there's just no comparison. But again, I have not used Zoom, so I'm a little biased. I don't know.
I'm good with either. I like Teams a little bit more.
Any other feedbackies? Anybody that's left? We did go into overtime, and I did promise a 2-hour meeting. So thank you for going through your content quickly, Chad, to try to bring us home on time. So for the record, we are planning a follow-up from Summit meeting on 11/11. That is the odd month, the next odd month, and the second Wednesday of it. If we're going to do this every other month cadence, that's what we're planning on, and we'll get the rest of the input and from everybody, and be driving towards that, looking for educational topics that people want and need, and anybody that is ready to volunteer on presentation, we'd love to hear about it. The QR code doesn't have a URL on this slide, but you can use your phone to get to that URL. And you should, if you're registered for the meeting, you should get a follow-up email asking you to do the survey for feedback. We can't pass a piece of paper out to everybody with a pen right now, as we usually do in person for feedback. So please do the online feedback. Any other comments, questions, things we need to do before wrapping?
Just really quick, while we've still got this slide up, I would love to see presentations about documentation, because that came up today, and it's come up a bunch of times in the past. And I think that's one of those things where, like, no matter what part of the company you're in, if you're in this UG, you probably are interested in documentation. And I would love to hear from somebody who's done it and thinks they have a good or even an okay documentation, because mine definitely needs some work.
Well, I know I personally am going to publish out a quick learn on how to fix, LastPass, so it will work with NAVUG.com. The NAVUG.com login using LastPass broke about a month ago, and it was kind of clunky before that, and it just simply would not work with most browsers. And I figured out a workaround for that, and I'm going to publish out a little quick learn that walks you through the